This video is useful to you if you are interested in either of these two questions. How can communities create a useful dialogue from the current crisis in police-community relations? What are some strategies for conducting meetings about difficult social issues so that people engage each other in a way that is honest, empathetic, and productive? My name is David Camp, and I've been a professional facilitator for many years. My clients have included the President of the United States, congresspeople, mayors, and others. I've done meetings on a wide variety of topics, but I have a subspecialty in helping people have useful conversations about difficult racial issues. My current book is called Read the Room for Real. It focuses on how people might use audience polling to greatly boost the effectiveness of meetings. By the way, I refer to the technology for surveying audiences as SPEAK, which stands for Speed Polling to Enhance Input and Knowledge. My co-author Matthew Freeman and I recently were asked by a group of Methodist pastors to help them organize a series of 4 meetings to discuss how church leaders might respond to the recent wave of protests around police killings of unarmed people. In our minds, the key underlying question that these pastors need to think about is, how do we turn the current crisis in race relations into an opportunity for dialogue that leads to progress? This video reviews 5 lessons from the first meeting we conducted. Lesson 1. Acknowledge the discomfort around the topic and do things to address it. Talking about race is uncomfortable for many people. We address this discomfort in 3 ways. First, we asked the participants to fill out a worksheet describing what they would need to have an authentic or even transformative experience. Second, during table introductions, we asked people to state their motivation for coming to the meeting. I found that statements of positive intention early in the meeting tend to build a trusting atmosphere. Third, we use speak questions early in the meeting to bring to light people's perspective about talking about racial issues. We asked a variety of questions, such as about age, gender, the type of community they came from, tenure in the church, racial identity, and so on. As you can see, people were very attentive during the polling, which is in fact one of the benefits of the technology. In this case, we also asked about their experience in talking about racial issues. We asked how often they discussed these issues in church, and how often they discussed these issues in the rest of their lives. It was clear that these pastors and lay leaders talked about the topic less at church than in their personal lives. We even directly asked their feelings about talking about race. Asking questions like this normalizes the fact that there's a certain level of discomfort and that some people feel it more than others. This variation on this question gets at a second important lesson. Lesson 2. Speak reinforces the norm that people can have different experiences and nobody is wrong. The polling results are helpful in not just showing that people have different perspectives about talking about race, but they have different perspectives about how race affects people's lives. It also helps people see that no group sees all things one way and no position is held only by one group. We asked people how often they saw actions that were racially troubling. As you can see, there were a variety of perspectives. We asked people how many times in the course of their lives they had seen actions by police they thought were problematic. There's a wide variation on that too. People seeing the significant diversity in experiences helps prepare them to hear about experiences different from their own in dialogue. Lesson 3. First memories can provide a useful on-ramp to a conversation. The core conversation we wanted to have was about people's experience of race and policing, and we took special care to try to introduce the topic in a way that would shed light on the issue. In doing so, we called upon the technique of having people first address their earliest memories of the topic. In a way, this approach fosters some gentleness and grace between people because it brings our long ago selves, perhaps even our child selves, into the room. As you can see from the body language at the tables, people tended to be very focused during the conversation. Lesson 4. Cross correlations can show that there can be differences by group, though they are not absolute. Table discussions are great for having people empathize with the things that have happened to a few people, but not as helpful in clarifying larger patterns of experience and perspective. In addition, to move people forward on a race-related topic, it is important that they see that some differences in perspective that are linked to group identity, but are not absolute. To use an analogy, men are taller than women, but it is not true that all men are taller than all women. Cross correlations are a great tool for helping people see these realities. And in helping people go from a table conversation to seeing the bigger picture, we showed them how race was correlated to their perspective on the questions they had discussed. It was clear that people of color tended to observe more behaviors they found racially troubling. It was also clear that white folks tended to have fewer incidents over their lives where they thought police behavior was problematic for any reason. While showing some general differences, the cross correlations also show these differences are not absolute. Notice that there were white folks who had seen many problematic police behaviors and folks of color who had not seen that many. People were very attentive to the results since they naturally wanted to get a sense of things beyond their table. We also heard a few comments from folks, and they varied widely. From one person expressing that the core issue is people not simply following police instructions, to another discussing his frustration at helping a Hispanic employee try to replace his identity papers after losing his wallet, to an older gentleman who recalled the confusion and fear he felt as a child when the police escorted the KKK through his southern town. Lesson 5. Surfacing the results for and barriers to progress can be a gentle way of raising the possibility for action. One goal of the dialogue was to help church leaders feel a little more empowered to take action if they wanted to do so. Here's what we did. Early in the meeting, we asked them to write on cards what they thought were the resources the church might draw on if it were to take leadership, as well as the barriers within the church that might inhibit leadership. During the dialogue, we sorted these cards into themes. After the dialogue, we reported back the primary themes about resources and asked them to specify what most inspired them. We reported back the barriers on themes and asked them to prioritize which ones were most important. At this first meeting, there was not time to have a conversation about action, but as we go forward, the group's sense about the strengths and barriers to effective action will be helpful when we get to that conversation. To review the lessons, go at the discomfort directly. Keypad polling helps normalize differences. First memories can be a useful on-ramp. Cross correlations can help people see large patterns of differences. And some of the key strengths and barriers to progress can help fuel empowerment. Thanks for watching, and please contact me with any lessons you have about how to engage groups on difficult topics.